Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And as we have a gold price back above $1,800 per ounce, I am excited to be joined by my friend Jack Lundin of Bluestone Resources. Jack, it's great to have you back on the show. I know a lot has happened since last year, so most importantly, welcome on in. Great to see you again. And how's everything going with you today?
Good. Thanks a lot for having me again, Chris. You're right. A lot has happened with Bluestone, so it's exciting to be here to speak with you again today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you stopping by. And again, it was interesting. You talked last year about how, with the way the gold price was rising, a lot of the projections that people were looking at regarding the gold stocks were based on 1,300, and then they were rushing to do a study at 1,500 gold and 1,700 gold. Can you give investors an idea of here we are a year later, gold's back above $1,800. What is that environment like for the companies and the investors that you're talking to?
Sure. It's been really interesting. I think over the past 4 or 5 months, we've seen a little bit of a sell-off in the gold space, and people, generalist investors, institutions as well, have been shifting their attention to more of the base metal sector, and we've seen copper price now approaching near $5 a pound. Gold did come off of its all-time high and went from 2,000 down to below 1,700, but it's since bounced back. We're around $1,800 an ounce today, and I think that the sentiment again is shifting back to the gold sector. It is a safe haven asset. There is a lot of uncertainty in the world today. And I think what we're going to see is the price continue to hold strong. Now, if that's at current levels, $1,800 an ounce, that's good for us because we've got a project that demonstrates very robust project economics and has a low all-in sustaining cost, which means even at a lower price, we're generating significant margins. But with this gold price, we're really looking strong. So the gold space for me is a good place to be in, given all of the uncertainty in the world. And we're very excited at continuing to advance Cerro Blanco.
Yeah, and Jack, another thing I'd love to know, especially from you, where, I mean, you certainly have quite a background in the metal space yourself, not to mention a family background that goes back generations. Given all of that, what are you seeing in terms of how the supply is meeting the current gold demand? I've seen a lot of tightness in silver, and I feel as if in the last couple of days, I've heard maybe not anything substantial. That's why I'd love to get your opinion. How is that stacking up from what you're seeing and hearing?
It just comes back to, right now we're entering a super cycle in all types of commodities. And over the past, years, really over the past decade, there has been a lull in investment in base metals and precious metal projects. And now what we're seeing is the demand is starting to creep way past what the supply levels are. And therefore, we do believe that there is going to be a significant supply crunch, which then can, send prices higher. But we do need to see more investment in both precious metals and base metal sector to meet this changing demand. And of course, the energy transition, silver, a precious metal, copper, of course, they're playing massive roles in this transition. And if we are to meet that demand, then we need to have more investment and more projects that are not only studied in advance, but actually they need to be fast-tracked. So there's a big focus and a lot of pressure on mining professionals, mining companies to, look at bringing projects forward in as efficient of a manner as possible, but also at the same time in a sustainable and responsible manner. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening in the metals sector over the next, I'd say, 2 to 5 years as we really work hard to find projects, build those projects out, and meet the demand of the world today.
Yeah, and it's especially interesting because when you think about the last year, we had gold over $2,000 an ounce. Now it's about $200 lower, yet I also see these calculations that 40% of the dollars that currently exist were reportedly created within the last year. So is there anything that you're seeing from the demand side or from the investors you talk with that, aside from the price being down, I find it hard to see yeah, sure, the COMEX, they can hammer some paper here and there. But when you look at the actual fundamentals, it's harder to see this disappearing than accelerating. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think again, when you look at the fundamentals right now, all commodity prices are going up, and they're kind of shooting through the roof. And what's happening now as well, as you look at the U.S. dollar, and that currency is actually lowering in value. It went from around $1.40 Canadian to around $1.20 Canadian per USD. And right now, when you see the U.S. dollar weaken, traditionally, there's an inverse relation to the gold price. So I think inflation is something that is, everyone is fearful of these days as prices go up and currencies are devalued. And again, traditionally, when you look at what happens in that environment, the gold price continues to climb. So even if the gold price were to, climb a little bit more steadily or at a slower pace than it has in the past, we're still looking at a very strong gold market going forward in the near term and overall in the medium term as well.
Yeah, and I mean, even if the price stays where it is, let alone climb. Although, Jack, you're running Bluestone Resources, so one of the companies that is getting gold out of the ground, going to be counted on to meet that supply. And it's nice, especially since it's been almost a year since you came on, and everything that I've learned in my time in the mining sector, see who lays out a plan, see who can follow through on it. You guys have done that. So could you give us an update on what's happened between then and now and what folks should be aware of?
Yes, there has been a lot of change since the last time I came on to speak to you about Cerro Blanco. So we've recently changed the strategy of the development for the project. We've gone from what was contemplated as an underground high grade 1 million ounce producer to an open pit 2.4 million ounce gold production capability. So there's a big fundamental change in the way in which we've decided to move the project forward. And that's really due to the success that we had in 2020 on drilling out the deposit. And over the years, we're now coming up on 4 years since Bluestone has had the Cerro Blanco project. Our understanding of the orientation of the deposit and really the best way, most robust way to extract gold and silver from this resource is through an open pit concept. So we came out with the results of that on March 1st, and now we're rapidly advancing with a feasibility study and hoping to get ourselves into the construction phase next year, which would then mean we're targeting around a 20-month timeline to get into production in 2024.
Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because as I've been thinking about where the price is, where some of the mining projects are at, if someone's of the school of thought that this price of gold and silver are going to have to go higher, I think there's a little, at least for me, a little bias towards projects that aren't in production now. So you can't be selling the metal at the current prices. But if you're 3 or 4 years out, that's something that I've been thinking about, appeals to me. Anything you could touch on there?
Yeah, well, what we're trying to do is not just as quick as possible get into the production phase. We want to make sure that we're maximizing the benefits of this resource. And really the way to do that is to understand the deposit, understand the geology, and understand the best way to produce the most minerals out of that deposit. And for Cerro Blanco, there's no question, the best way to do it is through an open pit method. And what we've been able to do is more than double the amount of gold and triple the amount of silver that we're going to be producing through this new concept. And we believe that the gold price, silver price will continue to remain strong. And once we get ourselves into production, you'll see, if you compare the economics from the open pit to the underground, it's totally a different project, and it puts us in a different realm. And because of the size, it becomes much more of a focus for the Lundin group to look at this as a serious investment for the family, because it is much more robust and we have eliminated a lot of the technical challenges associated to the underground development. So all of that combined, we believe that we've got the right path forward here. And that's why I'm so committed to making sure we deliver on bringing this specific project into operations as swiftly as possible.
Well, there you go, Jack. I think that's checkmate on the supposed safe haven treasury market where they have absolutely no plan, no accountability. It's like the exact opposite of that. So perhaps just in wrapping up, if people have questions, they want to get more information, or especially Jack, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are new to mining and are just freaked out by what they see out of these governments. If they have a financial advisor that they would like to join in a call, what is the best way for people to do that?
For sure. Well, I would start by leading any prospective investor to Bluestone, to our website, bluestoneresources.ca. Of course, from there, you'll get our information and you can reach out to Stephen Williams, who's our Vice President of Investor Relations. And if you Google Bluestone and my name, there's a lot of promotional videos that we've put on the company. We do also have a unique project adjacent to the gold project, which is our Mita geothermal project, and we're licensed to generate up to 50 megawatts of renewable energy through this geothermal project. So on, sticking with the trend of trying to be, sustainable and focusing on operational excellence, we do look at the prospect of bringing forward a renewable energy project in parallel to Bluestone's flagship Cerro Blanco gold project. So very unique opportunity for investors looking to get into the gold space.
Well, I sure appreciate that, Jack. All of that information will be in the description field below. And coming right after this video, we'll actually link to the call that you did last year, Jack, because I don't know, from what I've seen in my time in Wall Street and beyond, it's great to hear what people say. But fortunately, in this case, we have what you said last year, we have what you said this year, and people can look and see how you handle things, who's following through. Let the evidence do the talking. Nobody has to take anybody's opinion or word for anything. And I appreciate that there are people like you in this investment community, Jack, who are available to the investors. So I know you have a full day planned and we'll let you run, but thanks so much for joining me and we'll look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. And hopefully next time we talk on this platform, I'll be that much closer to operations at Cerro Blanco. So looking forward to it.
Well, as will I. And again, to hear the interview with Jack and what he was up to last year so you can hear it for yourself, that video is coming your way now.